Hi, everyone. This is Marisa B. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. Today, I have with me Pamela Madsen. Pamela is a somatic wellness educator. She's the founder and CEO of Back to the Body Retreats for Women. Pamela has provided over a decade of helping women to reconnect with their desires and their erotic nature. Hi, Pam. Thank you so much for coming today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started with this? I call you the person who has done more for the female body than anybody I know.
Well, that's a big mantle to wear. And thank you. I stand on the shoulders of so many other pioneers that are too countless to name. How did I get into this? Well, it was an unexpected journey, as most things are in life, right? I got married very young, and I've been married with my husband for about 40 years. And I was very traditional human. I met my husband when I was 17 years old, and he was the only man I ever had sex with. And I grew up during the time when my older brother and sister were heavy into the Woodstock generation. And there was lots of sex and pot and all that stuff around me.
Mm-hmm.
And they were often my babysitters. And it was actually like a reaction, almost like my rebellion was to become conservative, and to get married and to be a virgin and make babies. And I became a kindergarten teacher. And I think I had this awareness that my sexuality was even bigger than my brothers and my sisters and my mothers and my fathers, that all had these huge erotic presence. And that I had this sort of like knowing that somehow that my eroticism was going to blow up my life. And so what I did was I contained it. And, I married my pussy up, and, and everything was really, honestly, what they might say is good enough. Like, there was nothing bad about my marriage bed. Like, I've been masturbating since my fingers could find my pussy.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I knew how everything worked. And, I was deeply romantically in love with my husband, the way a 17-year-old would be deeply romantically in love. And so that part of my life happened, and I got married, and almost immediately started to try to have a family, and discovered that we had unexplained infertility. And then here we go, on that little rabbit wheel. And I had two sons, 4 years apart, through in vitro fertilization, and I became an advocate in that world. And quite well known in that world through Resolve, the National Fertility Organization, and then through the American Fertility Association that I founded. And so I was very involved in being an advocate, not just for women, but for people who wanted to have families, gay, straight, didn't matter. I did a huge study about the biological clock, and that's how women know today about their biological clock, because of a study that I did with over 20,000 women around the world. And so I made my mark in fertility, and my children were getting older, and all of my girlfriends were having affairs. And this was back in the day when we didn't have all the fancy language. There wasn't, polyamory. There wasn't consensual non-monogamy. We didn't know for those words. It was cheating. You were having an affair. That's what you were doing. Okay, great. No judgment. That was just our language. And they were all thrilled and happy. And I chronicled this story in my book, Shameless.
Yes.
And I wanted to be, they were all sex goddesses, and I wanted to be a sex goddess too. Like, who wouldn't want to be, right? And I had been, in my marriage for close to 20 years, and my children were teenagers, and I wanted more. And it wasn't about my husband. And I think this part is like really important. It was about an inner knowing, again, that there was a lot more around sexuality and my being that I knew, and I wanted to know. I wanted to know all of it. And I learned a lot. My biggest teachers were gay men. gay men. And my massage therapist was a gay man, and he started to like rattle on and on and on about all these words I didn't know. Sacred intimacy, sexological body work, erotic massage. And I almost knocked him unconscious. Like I was like, whoa, 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 what are you talking about here? Like, and then like, are we talking about Samantha and Sex with the City and having a happy ending massage? And is that even available for women? And I went on this big journey, and it wasn't easy. 12, 13, 14 years ago to find pleasure for women, and pleasure the way I was looking for it. Like I wasn't looking for a boyfriend, wasn't looking for a lover.
Right.
I was looking for a practitioner, a therapist who would help me explore my body and allow me to play in my body separate than my husband. But I wasn't interested in having intercourse with, because I was like at that point, well, maybe in all points, my pussy's a little precious. And I wasn't interested at that point in having intercourse with anyone outside of my marriage. And I had my experiences, which were funny and fabulous and wonderful. And again, you can read all about my explorations. Too long to go into here. And in the end, I had a blog, and this was back in the days when blogs were blogs.
Yes.
Then blogs were a really big deal. And I had a anonymous blog, because back then, it took that when Jesus was a baby, right? You could have an anonymous blog. And I used a pseudonym, and it was called The Riverdale Goddess, The Very Unusual Adventures of a Not Very Ordinary Housewife. And I blogged about my sessions and my adventures and my feelings. And I had over 40,000 readers. And I was very open, and I've always been very open and transparent. Like I actually didn't have any shame, which is why the book is called Shameless. I didn't have any shame around it, and I shared it with members of my executive committee at the American Fertility Association. And some of them started to do sessions with my therapist, and everything was all rosy and beautiful until I discovered spanking, pearl clutch, BDSM. This is before 50 Shades of Grey. And then I was shamed and ostracized, and I had to leave my organization.
Oh, wow.
That I founded with liberal people, gay, bisexual, straight, liberals, Democrats, people in the field, therapists.
But there was still a stigma.
Huge
to them.
stigma. And they were going to out me. And remember, I was anonymous. And so I did what any self-respecting girl would do. I hired a lawyer. And, as the press release read, I went on to greener pastures. And I didn't have to work for a year. And I dove deeper into sexological bodywork, and became certified in many different areas of sexuality, like shadow work and somatics and things like that. And I already had my master's in education.
Right, because you were already an educator.
I was already a well-known advocate. And I founded Back to the Body because I needed a safe place. I saw the need for a safe place for women to come that had boundaries in a container. Like the magic lingam wasn't going to pop out in the middle of a session. I had all that bullshit to me. Tantra is a really big word. And it's really about, what do you mean by Tantra? Right?
Right, exactly.
It is really used in so many different ways. I wanted something that I knew what it was. And for me, that was sexological bodywork. It had boundaries, like the practitioners, male or female, non-binary, doesn't really matter, trans, whoever you are, if you're a practitioner of sexological bodywork, you keep your clothes on. It's one-way touch. We use gloves when we touch genitals. We don't date our clients. We don't have outside relationships with our clients. We don't keep secrets.
Right.
Everything is open and transparent. And I wanted a safe place for women. There were lots of places, believe it or not. There are more places for men and LGBTQ people than there are for hetero or bisexual women
Yes.
come and explore
I
this.
believe that. I believe that.
It's just true, and and if you're a man, I don't care what you are in your orientation, we've got it all so now. Women are very limited in what's available. Most of the retreats that are for women are very spiritual and goddessy, and we wear it's all flowing and with beautiful images of candles, all that, and great, beautiful, wonderful. But what's it? I can only say pussy so many times. Okay, so once you learn to say pussy or yoni or cunt or vagina, whatever you use, mazel tov, you got it. But then what? And what is it to be a goddess? I don't call myself a goddess or a priestess. If you see that energy in me, great. But that's not who I am. I'm a woman. It's enough. Thank you very much. And my work is around helping women embody their bodies. Their bodies.
I think, as you said, there's shame, right? I mean, that's something that a lot of us are grown up with. First of all, I think there's a societal stigma that women are out there with desires. They almost want to quash that desire.
They don't almost want to squash that desire. They do want to squash that desire. Except if we would, what they don't want to squash is how to make money and how to make money from women in the commodification. So, even our menopause is medicalized. Growing up, we're medicalized. We're also still it's like there are diamonds between our legs, and the diamonds belong to corporations, who are creating a medicalization of the female body. And so we have low libido, we'll give you something. You're feeling sad, we're going to give you an antidepressant. Instead of looking at why we're sad, maybe we're sad because we're not getting fucked. Maybe we're sad because we don't know how to touch our own pussies. Maybe we're sad because we're having sexual abuse. Women are the highest consumers of antidepressants, and we have the largest orgasm gap in the human race.
It's sad.
And they do correlate. They absolutely.
Well, of course, and a lot of medications.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Give you difficulty in that realm.
Absolutely. And so we're very frightened of women actually becoming empowered and understanding their bodies. And what's beautiful is that there is an interest. And
yes.
I've been doing this now for 12 years. My retreats stay mostly sold out all the time. We sell a full year ahead.
Yes.
Whereas we are small. Because you can't do this with 3,000 women in an auditorium. You do this with 6 or 12 or 18 women with a ton of staff. So, to work with women is around their eroticism is different than working with men. What women need are different than what men need. And so it's actually an expensive proposition to do this work properly with women, with properly trained staff that are paid real salary. So you're not really, and I wonder about, like, why are you running a workshop for $45? Who do you get for that? Babysitters are making more than that. So, like, sex educators are highly qualified professionals who also need to buy their organic eggs. And so my staff is paid well. The retreat centers are beautiful. I have legal agreements with my participants, with my staff. I mean, I have a container that women can come into and put down their hypervigilance, which is the first thing that women have to do. As you may know, Marisa, there was a study that was just done. It's the first study of sexological bodywork in the United States. And who they studied was my retreats. And the reason they studied my retreats is because they're repeatable. The results are repeatable.
Right, exactly.
And it was a long-term study. It took over 6 years. People are curious about the study. It was published in the Journal of Sexuality and Relationship, but they can find it, the abstract, and then so you don't have to read 45 pages if you don't want to. We had a science writer put them into fact sheets for women. So you can find that on my website at backtothebody.org and read about what immersion and what touch, boundary touch, where women can feel safe where they know what they're getting, where there's no surprise. What can change in a woman's life when she can receive that kind of presence and attention and feel safe in her own body? And we don't feel safe in our own body unless we feel safe where we are.
Now, how does that translate out in the world? Because I know that your employees are heavily vetted, experienced, educated. How does that work after the women leave and go out into the world? How do they make their desires known?
Well, they learn. They learn at the retreat, and then it's practice. Everything is about practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like practice,
of course.
practice. So what we do that's unique is we offer the women ongoing support groups and pop-up workshops for free.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a private Facebook group, and there are professional therapists, sexologists, sex educators in that group that
Mm-hmm.
hold weekly support groups, women's talking circles, and workshops.
Right. So there's support afterwards to help them move forward. Yes.
For as long as they want.
Mm-hmm.
They're never kicked out of the group.
Right.
Unless, of course, they do something weird and inappropriate. But that's only happened twice in 12 years. So, we provide ongoing support, and they have a community of women
Mm-hmm.
that they can turn to. And that's very important, that they're experiencing this work not in isolation. See, when I did this as a client, I did it
Mm-hmm.
in isolation. But these women don't have isolation. They have a community of women.
Mm-hmm.
They know each other. They visit each other. They support each other. They have their own text threads outside of our
Mm-hmm.
company, right? They go to a retreat, they start a text thread, and they stay in contact with each other. And some of them will go to retreat with each other everybody's always invited, but they meet ahead, and they have dinners out, and they start mixing
Mm-hmm.
even before they enter the actual retreat that they may be attending. So this is female leadership as opposed to patriarchal leadership, which is something that is shared amongst the group. We talk about the field, like the field of women and practitioners. Like, how are we co-regulating? How do you self-regulate? What is being dysregulated like? How do you tune in to your own body and then tune into the energy of the field? All this is felt experiences. It's not talk. It's felt experiences that we support women in learning about. So, sometimes we say we're a self-school, not a sex school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because women are changing their patterns in their whole life, not only their relationship with their sexuality, as important as that is. It's a whole woman, all the parts, which is why, like, I have trouble with, I'm not a fan of people who only do, yoni massage or just one things, because it's like so pussy focused. And the pussy's a part of the picture. It's a part of the pleasure, but it's not 15 minutes, and it's not one spot, and it's not just that. I have erogenous zones, in the roots of my hair and the tips of my toes. Bite my foot before you kiss my pussy. So, we either over centralize, over center our genitals, or we ignore them. And so what I'm about is bringing it together.
Because it's a part of the whole, really, right? It's a part of the whole. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you find that a lot of women are embarrassed? I'm sure that ones that come to join your retreats are already thinking along those lines of finding more. I know as a therapist, so many women are so embarrassed, so shamed, and a lot has to do with body image and society say so on what you're supposed to look like, and how you're supposed to carry yourself, and how thin you're supposed to be, and how tall you're supposed to be, and how blonde you're supposed to be. And that causes a lot of problems for a lot of the women that I see. They're so embarrassed, they're so ashamed, they're so fearful of even discussing it. Do you find that the clients that come to you, they already are on that path? to find more?
You know what? It's everything. And I believe in women having a support system. Like I always ask, are you working with a therapist? You know, I think they should be working with a therapist when they do this work. We're not therapists. We're sex
Right.
educators.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it looks an awful lot like therapy, and I get that, and feels an awful lot like therapy. But and I suppose in many ways it is. But we're not licensed therapists, and you know, we're sex educators.
Right.
And so to be able to combine the touch in the workshops and then have an outside person to support your work. What we're actually hoping this year with the study is to educate more therapists
Mm-hmm.
about this work. So when a client comes into you and says, I want to do this thing, the therapist doesn't clutch her pearls and says,
Right.
"My God, what?" Right? So a big part of our mission this year is reaching out to people like you and to reach
Mm-hmm.
out to therapists so they understand the work, they understand the validity, they have an actual study and a journal that they
Mm-hmm.
respect.
And you should go to an expert. I mean, I would refer someone to an expert in that field because that's what they need. They need the expert.
And the only way we recover from shame is by having our whole self received without judgment. So we have women that keep their panties on for the whole week, and maybe the last day their panties come off, and you know, who find it difficult to disrobe. We have women who've had trauma. We have women who have had everything, and we have women who are very well-known sex educators who are coming to expand themselves. And so it's all across the board. Everybody is different. The age range is late 20s all the way up through their 80s. You know,
didn't you ring your mom
at 93?
That's right.
And she was ejaculating across the room. You know, so this bullshit about us drying up as we age. No, we're bored. You know, it's like we go through various chapters in our life, and every woman obviously is different. But so many women, it's like the very beginning of their young adult life is about finding their career and finding a life partner in their twin flame, or maybe having children, or climbing up the corporate ladder. And then they reach 38, 40, 50, and everything stops because they have achieved what they wanted to achieve. And then they realize that they're bored. They have low libido. Where's their desire? What do they want? And I mean, that's the biggest part of the bell curve that we get is women between 40 and 60. And that's when they stop treading water. No, I'm sorry. They stop swimming and they start treading water, and they look around and they have complaints. They don't feel desire. You know, they're not interested in sex. Well, if you're fed the same freaking hamburger every day for the rest of your life, you're not going to want the hamburger anymore. And so what are you going to do to shake up your life? And sometimes it's not with your partner, and it's not also in polyamory or in consensual non-monogamy. Sometimes it's about finding yourself, because you're so busy in service and finding a career and being a mother, being a daughter as our parents age, right? I mean, there's so many roles of service that there isn't ever a space for us, and then they feel selfish, or they shouldn't be spending on themselves, or how could they do something when there's a family reunion happening? And so what I say to women is stop asking permission. It's time to ask for support. The family function will go on without you. You know, it's
exactly.
You can take vacation. You don't have to do it with your partner. And, you know, I talk about planning your own abduction. You know, get yourself out, get yourself to a program that's going to hold you and let you realize that you're not depressed. You don't have low libido. You're just bored. You're exhausted from giving. And you need to receive. You need to water your roots, and you need to actually take the time to learn what turns you on, to learn how to speak it, to learn how to embody it. And women change their lives. And it's a beautiful thing.
And so how does one go about even expressing their desires? That starts from joining your group, correct? That starts from going
that's
with
a
you.
path. That's a path. There's lots of ways. I mean, you can support a woman in trying to speak their desire. What's different about how we approach it is that they're actually able to experience. So a woman may talk to you about, her desire to be touched in a particular way. And you can permission it and support her in doing that, but then she actually has to do it, and she needs a place to do it. And that's where we come in. So we're a place where women can come and feel safe enough to explore these things. Because what's true, Marissa, is that every woman can have this.
Right.
It's available. This is not 12 years ago or 15 years ago. This is now. And there are programs, there are trained people available. I believe in immersion. I don't believe in one-off sessions. I think the body needs to be trained. You need to rework these neural pathways because you've been doing something for years this way. And we're talking the body now, right? And so we need to entrain the body to learn how to go a different way. It's very hard to do this with a partner. You can bring your partner in later. Like we do a couples retreat who have been with us. But the work needs to be done individually. So the man, if it's hetero, the man needs to do his work. And there are programs for men. There's the Apollo Project. There's the Body Box. There's lots of programs for men to do their work. And back to the body is for women to do theirs. And then you can come back together. But it's very hard to rekindle your desire to really explore things that you may have kept hidden or shameful with your life partner. The person that you pay bills with, that you may have diapered babies with, that you may fight over how you load the dishwasher with. It's much easier to do this with a trained professional who's there for you. All their presence is on you. And they're showing up with knowledge.
Right, exactly.
And
they have all the experience.
Yeah. And they're listening to the woman that's in front of them. So they have all this knowledge, historical knowledge of all the different women, but it's that woman who's always the secret ingredient. And we never think that all women are alike. We know that there are certain patterns that happen for women in these programs, but it's always different with every woman. And for women to have 100% presence is a lot and takes some getting used to.
Oh, yes, it does. It does. I mean, I have to confess, because I mean, I know you a long time through professional channels, and you had an event in Brooklyn many years ago, and you'd sent me an email to come, and I had to think twice and say, oh, will I go? And if so, as a therapist, do I go? And how vulnerable could I be? And of course I didn't go to the event that weekend. And that was many years ago, thinking, oh, how would I look as a therapist involved with a group of people, even though it's a small container? So even I had that idea. And I wasn't married at the time. I wasn't, I mean, I had been with my husband many years. We dated for 12 years before we married, but I wasn't married at the time, and I still couldn't bring myself to go and be that vulnerable. So I know how it is.
And we have lots of therapists. And therapists now send us clients. A lot has happened in 10 years. A lot has happened. And of course, I have therapists on my staff who are also psychologists. So, 10 years ago, women would come and not tell people. Now women come and hold Zooms with all their girlfriends to share their experiences because it's so transformational for them. Women show their pictures.
Yes.
Women allow me, they do testimonials. I mean, it's just a very different world.
So different, yes.
And it moves very, very quickly. And really, you can talk about this as much as you want to talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's a little bit like trying to explain to somebody what Thai food tastes like.
Right, unless they taste it, they don't know.
Right, they don't know.
Right.
And so there's certain things that you need to taste.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is very skilled touch, pure body acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
the de-shaming of bodies.
That's a big issue, isn't it?
The self-acceptance of bodies, all the ages. And
but isn't that placed upon us as women, though? Don't you think that's been placed upon us?
Yes, it is. And we can take hold of it, and we can cheer each other on. And that's why, back to the body is different, because we're held by women.
Mm-hmm.
And men are there too. And so it's sort of like the men are stewards.
Mm-hmm.
And we hold the container. And so the women are cheering on their sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And telling each other that they're beautiful. And their shape, their age, the support around their own personal stories is held by their sisters. And
Mm-hmm.
they are literally cheered on by everybody. And it becomes a really intimate experience.
And so powerful.
Hugely powerful. It is truly life transformational. And I can say it now. I've got a study that shows quantitative results that are quite large, in 5 pillars of female embodiment. The ability to have better genital self-esteem. I love that. Genital self-esteem.
Yes.
What a science term. Feel good about your genitals. So women feel better about their genitals after a retreat. They feel better about other women. They heal sisterhood and motherhood. They feel better about their bodies. They have tremendous increase in their body self-image. They learn about their desires. They learn how to speak their desires. They learn how to set boundaries. They learn about consent. They learn about arousal. They learn about orgasm. They learn about how to initiate a sexual encounter, how to ask for what they want, how to have a beautiful conversation with a partner around desire and what they need without alienating your partner. Like, how do you say,
right,
touch me here, sweetheart? Oh, that feels so good, except now you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, you say no, ow, no, ow, your partner is going to contract.
Well, of course.
Right. So many women don't have those skills of how to talk to, know what they want instead of just being uncomfortable, like learn where their pleasure lies. But also, how do we say it? Like, baby, a little slower. Yeah, just like that. Stay there. That's so good. Harder. Could you go harder?
Right, how to ask comfortably, right.
Yeah, in a way that somebody can receive it and not feel inadequate and not feel scolded.
Now, how many times a year do you do your retreats? How often do you have them? I know you just came back from Mexico? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm about to go back to Mexico again in November. We do about 8 to 10 retreats a year. And then there are also privates, and then there are courses and all kinds of things. And there's a pleasure quiz on the website, so women can go to backtothebody.org, take the pleasure quiz.
Which I will put all that in the description, because I'm sure the audience will be asking.
All right, take the quiz, and then you'll get an answer, and you'll get tools, and you'll get on the newsletter, and you'll see what's available. Women book ahead.
Oh, of course, I'm sure.
They book ahead. The women who are already in the program tend to take up a lot of space because they find out about everything before anybody else does. So they tend to gobble the retreats. So it's always about creating space for new women to come on board, right? And there are retreats in the US and there are retreats in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, what do you want? Do you want to go to Puglia? Is that a part of the adventure?
Mm-hmm.
Is having your own eat, pray, love, packing a suitcase, going.
Right. When we spoke, you were in France. When last we spoke, you were in France.
Yeah. It's
yes.
like, what is a part of this? Like when people say to me, well, when are you coming to Ohio? When are you coming to Minnesota? Like, I'm not coming.
Right.
I'm not coming to your backyard, darling. I might. I mean,
but you have to take the adventure.
Right.
You have to take the adventure.
That's like just a stroke of luck.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're waiting for me to show up in Dallas, Texas, you may be waiting 5 years. Yeah. Part of this is giving a hell yes and packing a bag and getting your tickets and taking yourself on an adventure, mm-hmm. and knowing you're not going to be alone, knowing that you're with a group of women, knowing that this is a curated event, that you're almost being hand fed. Mm-hmm. Where to go, where to arrive, how you're going to get picked up, how you're getting there. Mm-hmm. Your food's being handled. Your schedules are going to be on your bed when you arrive. Mm-hmm. This is a very boutique experience, mm-hmm. highly curated, because women are trained to control. And we say to women, put down your backpack.
Right.
You don't have to manage this. Yeah, you've got to say yes. You've got to pay your bill, and you've got to pay this. Make sure you got your passport with you. There are things that people have to do. But beyond that, we basically support women on the journey. Mm-hmm. And there's no entanglements.
And I'm assuming they don't have to do anything they're not comfortable with.
Of course
while
not.
They're there. Right.
As I said, we have women who come and dive into everything, and then mm-hmm. we have women who come and, it can take them a few days mm-hmm. before they're ready to actually dive into the table work. And mm-hmm. Sometimes I have to little push, soft push of encouragement to get them moving. But the excitement of the other women usually do that. Hearing the other women.
Right, the group, yes.
Yeah, and feeling the safeness, the happiness of the other women usually encourages other women. And for partners, I mean, these guys sign agreements with me. Mm-hmm. There's no extracurricular, and they don't want to lose their jobs. And they mostly
right, of course not.
They have lives. They have
this is their job.
Yes. This is their job. They have families and their own lovers, and they're not looking to start a relationship with a client. Mm-hmm. And if they did, they'd be gone.
Right.
So it's pretty simple. It's like these are the rules. And most of the men have been with me for a long time. We add very slowly. Mm-hmm. Every couple of years, I'll add a practitioner, and we mentor him or her mm-hmm. in. We have female practitioners for women who want to work with a woman. Mm-hmm. Most of our women want to work with men mm-hmm. for full body touch, and some don't. Mm-hmm. And our women sexologists also teach workshops mm-hmm. and are very involved, safe port, and provide context, arms to hold you. Mm-hmm. That's very important.
No, absolutely. And so now you would say that if someone wants to start their walk down their desirous path, the best thing to do is to do the test on your website.
I think it's a great way to start is, take the pleasure quiz, book a free consultation with one of our female sexologists, tell your story. Mm-hmm. And then let us figure it out. We can figure out the money. We can figure out payment.
Right, with you, right.
Yeah, we can do all that. I mean, the average income for women who come to our retreat is somewhere around $75,000 to $150,000 a year. That's their average income. Mm-hmm. Some have less, some have a lot more. And some do one retreat a year, and all year mm-hmm. they're paying off that retreat. Mm-hmm. And some women come to 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yes.
retreats a year because they can.
Hmm.
And they have a fabulous time and they're always evolving erotically. I mean, we don't finish. You don't finish erotic evolution.
Right.
You only finish if you don't start. You only finish if you don't pursue.
Right.
If you're a low prioritizer, if sex is a low priority for you, well, then you're probably not going to have much sexual revolution. I don't look at lifespan. I look at sex span. What's your sex
Hmm.
span? And
Right.
can
Exactly.
it keep evolving and getting hotter and hotter? I mean, it was just so funny. I mean, a woman like saying to me, Pamela, like, what are you doing? You know, you're always you're getting hotter and sexier. And like the first thing I say is, well, I do everything. I do everything. If it's available, I do it. No shame here. You know, I'm not going great in this century. And I do like all the things that's
Mhm.
available to me to do to feel good in my body. That's my choice. But really what it's about, why do I get sexier, prettier, whatever it is, more appealing to their eye? Do they feel my heat? It's because I practice my arousal. Everyone can have this, but not everyone's willing to practice. Not everyone is willing to actually move their obstacles. Like move the obstacle to come to we are doing a very low cost weekend in LA in December.
Mhm.
Something similar to that you were going to in Brooklyn.
Right. In Brooklyn.
Something similar. It's a Friday afternoon, a Saturday, and a Sunday, and it's
Mm.
called a portal. And we do them a couple times a year. They're not expensive. They're around $600, and people fly in from everywhere to
Mhm.
attend. It's limited to 20 women, and it's a great way for women to step into the work without getting on the table,
Mhm.
but really get to know us, get some tools, watch me on the table.
Mhm.
What's possible for them to get to see a woman do that,
Mhm.
and not an 18-year-old woman, not a perfect bodied woman, but a midlife lady,
Mhm.
like rocking her stuff, free in her body. And usually all they have to do is see me, and then they want it.
Right. Then they realize that they have a right to it.
Yeah, and that they can have it.
Yes.
And so, yes, the pleasure grids, yes, the portals are great. They're great weekends, bring girlfriends. Um, have a consultation. The question is, do you want to get started?
Right.
If
That's
you
what it
want to
is.
get started, there are lots of paths to get started, lots of ways to begin your own pilgrimage.
Mhm.
And we can help with that. And, there aren't the only barrier you had was you.
Exactly. Oh, and I knew that.
Right. And,
Yeah, exactly.
here. And, we have all kinds of people coming. We have Orthodox Jewish people coming. We have
Mhm.
Muslims coming. We're big with the Mormons. I have a lot
Oh,
of,
really?
yeah. I mean, people who have left the Mormon church. Um,
Oh, have left.
we
I'm
have
surprised Orthodox people
yeah,
are
we have
coming.
everything because there are women in every ethnic group, of every color, of every religion,
Hmm.
and they want a safe container to explore themselves. And it's just a matter of letting people know. And I think having the study is a big deal, Marissa,
Hmm. Oh,
especially
yes.
people like you, who are therapists and who can see that this was
Well, I
done.
can't wait to read it. I can't wait to
But
read it,
it's
actually.
go to the website, it's there, go to
Yes.
the blogs. And it's, you know, it was done by Widener University. It was done
Right.
by therapists,
Hmm.
by professors at Widener, and we didn't give any money. There was no pharmaceutical support.
Right.
What we did to support it was give them access to our clients who wanted to
Hmm.
participate, but I couldn't see it.
Right. Right.
It was a blind. I mean,
Right. You weren't involved. Right.
I
It
wasn't
just.
involved. We would provide a link, and then the women would go
Hmm.
and take the surveys and then do live interviews.
Hmm.
That's what we did.
Hmm.
And it was a long wait for this study to come out. It's a quantitative and qualitative study, and so you're petting somebody.
No, the phone, of course, as life happens. Today's all the day. And I'm not that I'm not that adept at all of the technology.
I get it.
But I definitely am going to read that study.
Well,
I think it's interesting that they decided to do one.
Well, because they felt that the woman, the primary lead, Dr. Betsy Crane, who's just retired from Widener, I was her last project. I met her at a health retreat and handed her my book 11 years ago. And she read the book. And I said, would you like to come to a retreat? And she was already doing a lot of stuff with Betty Dodson and Body Electric and was very involved.
Yes.
And so she said, let me see if I can come as an IRB observer. So she got qualified to come as an IRB observer and then said, oh my God, we must study this. So she experienced it. She was an IRB observer. And then she took this project on. It was a very big project. And, you know, the study itself is something like 45 pages. And, you know, as I said, quantitative and qualitative. So that's very unusual. It took a lot of time. There are 3 people who worked on this study. And now we have it. And so now I can speak with a bolder voice. I mean, I knew the outcome.
Right.
Because I live it.
Because you've been doing it for so long, right?
But it was wonderful to see it.
Right.
And to know that it was there. And so hopefully that gives women and therapists more confidence and outlines the importance of this kind of work for women.
Absolutely. I definitely will put all the information in the description. I'd love to put your book information, because I'm sure
it's on Amazon.
The audience, yes. So I'll put a link to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
The audience will be asking.
And I appreciate, Marisa, the time and having me on the show. And,
oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled.
And women can find a lot of my free content on social media, just like you found.
Yes.
So they can find me on Facebook, and I'm sure you'll put the link, and on Instagram.
Oh, absolutely. I'll put all of your contact information, all of your social media too.
Yeah, Instagram, there are 2 accounts. There's one for Back to Body and one for me personally. They're both good. I think mine personal one sometimes is a little more interesting than Back to the Bodies, but they're both great. Follow them both, and they have different content. And I put a lot of writing, as you know, every day on Facebook.
Yes, and I read everything that you put, and I usually respond too.
Well, thank you. And so, you know, not everything has to cost a nickel. Some things are free, and you just have to be willing to reach for it.
Right, it's the initial contact.
Yeah, and just so and it's there, and it's all public, and friends don't matter. I keep everything public.
Right.
So,
and where do you go from here? Then where do you go from here?
I'm going to go back to Mexico. We're doing a lot of work at a beautiful retreat center called Sagrada, and it's in San Miguel de Ente, and it's just stunning.
Oh, I love San Miguel. Yes,
I have been, you know, renting retreat centers for 12 years. It's one of the most beautiful places, and so I have a program there called Ritual 12 Women. It's been sold out for a year. After that, I'm in Costa Rica, and again, sold out. And that's going to be about shadow work and somatics. And the next opening I have for women is in Puglia, in Italy. There's space there. We just opened that. It's gorgeous, just gorgeous. And if you want to dream of going to Italy, well, that's a trip. And then we have, you know, Colorado and upstate New York and you know, lots of places, but
you're always busy.
But we're always busy. We're always traveling. Panama, France, you know, next year probably would do something in Amsterdam. Next year, 2025. We're almost through with 24.
Right.
But there are spaces and there are opportunities. And so when things open up and we do a special event. So like, don't be put off. Go take the pleasure quiz, get on the list, see what's happening. And maybe I'll meet you at the portal.
Yeah.
LA. Marisa, thank you so much.
I thank you. I thank you for taking the time. It was wonderful, Pam. I so appreciate it. You have a wonderful afternoon.
I'm going to go for a great big hot walk. I've been sitting
beautiful day
all day. So I'm going to go take a walk and stretch my legs and think about what we might create next. So
that's true.
well,
I thank you. I thank you so much.
all right. Take care.
You take care. Bye, Pam.
Thank you.